That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go! Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. The Steelers' Week 14 matchup against the Vikings certainly did not produce the results that they were looking for. The loss now puts Pittsburgh at 6-1 and currently out of a playoff spot. Obviously, there are a number of things that need to be fixed, but the Steelers had 3 extra days to examine and assess what went wrong. For more on the Thursday night game at US Bank Stadium, let's send it over to Bob Pompeani, who's with Coach Tomlin. Bob.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Going down the stretch now. All the byes are in. It's now 4 games left for every team, and it is a logjam just about everywhere you look in every division. Coach, let's talk about going down the stretch and needing, some players to return from health. Can you update people on, just guys who may be ready to contribute coming up?
It's been a good week for us from that standpoint. We've had a number of guys that are working their way toward participation and have a chance to participate who either went down last week or who weren't participants a week ago. So there's a lot to be optimistic about from a potential participation standpoint.
Looking back now, you've had, basically 10 days in between games here to see what happened in that Minnesota game. One of the things that has been kind of a bugaboo just about every game this year is slow starts. Can you put your finger on why that has happened, specifically in that Minnesota game?
It depends on what you're talking about. I thought we moved the ball fluidly on the initial drive. We missed a field goal. We got a stop on defense. But as the half wore on, it became evident that we were lacking some in the trenches relative to that fight. And so, I didn't necessarily identify it initially as a slow start, but obviously the disadvantage that we had in terms of waging the war of attrition in the line of scrimmage became evident pretty soon in the football game.
Yeah, the physicality aspect, you have talked about that before. What can you do to change that, given the fact that you don't have so many people you can throw in there on either side?
Like I mentioned, I'm excited about the number of potential guys that we have returning to us, but we're also are capable and willing to do some things schematically to aid those that are playing. Pre-snap movement such as stems on the offensive side of the ball, shifts and motions. We just got to be really thoughtful about the things that we do, and particularly the things that we do pre-snap that are capable of enhancing or helping someone from a technical standpoint.
One thing that you can take away from that game is the way you finished, and that has been the case a lot this season. Can you draw anything from finishing the way you guys have finished some of these games? I know the starts have not been good, but you've been in the fight all the way into the end. Is there anything to glean from that?
It is so important, man. These games, and when I say these games, I'm talking about National Football League games, often come down to one possession. They're never determined in the first 5 or 15 minutes for that matter. Your ability and your willingness to fight, your ability and willingness to make plays, significant plays down the stretch, oftentimes define players and teams. We've had a lot of close games. Largely we've performed rather well at the end of those games, and that's just part of NFL football. You got to be willing to rise up in those weighty moments.
And you certainly got Ben Roethlisberger at his very best at the end. He threw some darts in there, including at the very end of the game. I don't know how you describe him. The word baller keeps coming to mind for me. I see him in there. He got sacked 5 times in that first half, and he keeps on coming back for more.
There's a toughness about him that is what it is. I've witnessed it so long that, I'm never surprised by it. As a matter of fact, I expect it, but it doesn't mean it's not appreciated. He's a guy that's at his best in those weighty moments. He's a guy that runs to those confrontations as opposed to away from them. I think it's something that's defined him throughout his career and probably something that's part of his DNA, whether we're talking about football or any other form of competitive endeavor.
For the viewing audience who may have questions about this, I'm not good in math, so I can't figure it out. I need people to help me. But you're often, as coaches, faced with these 2-point decisions, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. What goes into that? You had a chance to kick an extra point to make it a 29-21, one possession game. You chose to go for 2. Is it analytics? Is it feel? How do you make that determination?
It's both. And really, I was interested in putting myself in position to maybe win on the second score. And so you needed a 2-point play on the first score if you want to have opportunity to do that. I wanted to leave open the option of that from that perspective to potentially play 2 points to win on the next score. So we had pretty much decided even prior to getting down in that red zone that was going to be the opportunity. Obviously, we were down a number of scores. We scored twice. We kicked the extra point. On the third one, when we closed it to a 2-score game, that's when we got into that mentality.
All right, coming up, it is the first of 4 down the stretch against a very good Tennessee Titan team, even without Derrick Henry. We'll talk about the Titans when we come back with head coach Mike Tomlin. Right now, let's send it back over to Missy Matthews.
Okay, thanks so much, Bob. Right now, the top of the AFC South is very competitive, and the Titans enter tomorrow's game sitting at 9-4. The Steelers, however, are currently on the outside looking in, but they do remain in striking distance, just a half game out of a wild card spot. Certainly tomorrow will be a playoff-like environment at Heinz Field. It should be a ton of fun. Don't go anywhere. The 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. Are you 84 Lumber material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
Tomorrow's game at Heinz Field pits 2 playoff teams from a year ago, and both have been bitten by the injury bug and are missing key players on offense and defense. For the Steelers, ball security is going to be a top priority as they are 6-0 this season, 1 even or better in turnover ratio. For the Titans, they're coming off a Week 14 shutout against Jacksonville, where they picked off rookie quarterback Trevor Lawrence 4 times. For more on this key AFC matchup, let's send it back over to Bob and Coach. Bob.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. The Tennessee Titans come to town. It's a very good team sitting on top of their division. They also are 7-0 against teams that made the playoffs last year. Even without Derrick Henry, Coach, this is a formidable task, isn't it?
It is, and partly because of the continuity that they have. They do have a new offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith has the Atlanta Falcons job, but they're having to change their approach to business. The vast majority of their offensive staff is still in place, and so their approach to business remains. They're a run action group. They utilize Tandy Hill's mobility. They utilize it in a lot of ways. They change the launch point. Design quarterback runs are a function of situational football. I think he's got 6 rushing touchdowns himself on the season. And so even without Henry, there's a lot to be reckoned with in terms of minimizing what it is that they do and the function in which they work.
Yeah, they tend to run it no matter what. And, you know, Henry supposedly is going to be back in the playoff run once they get to that point. You guys have had your issues stopping the run. What do you need to tighten up to make sure that doesn't occur in this game?
You know, it's not about who we play. It's about what we do and how we do it. And so I'm less concerned about, you know, the Jimmies and Joes, if you will. We got to put guys in position to make plays. We maybe have to do some things that are a little bit different to give us a winning edge. We'll see what that is. And the guys got to play well.
Now you have Ryan Tannehill, a quarterback. He's a veteran. He's been there. They gave him a lot of money. They like what they do. What about him and, you know, his ability as a passer? He has mobility. He can move outside of the pocket. Another challenge, I guess, in that respect.
Yeah, he can make all the throws. You know, he's a former first rounder. He's a talented guy. I think the X factor regarding him is and always has been his mobility, his ability to extend plays, his ability to change launch points, and the advantages that provides the offense. His ability to run the football via design runs, in certain circumstances, 3rd down, 4th down, tight red zone. We got to be on the screws because of his mobility, and that's the X factor in his game.
So defensively, they're missing some players, but last week against Jacksonville, they intercepted Trevor Lawrence 4 different times. What makes them good defensively, and what do you have to watch out for when you're going against them from your offensive side of things?
Man, they have very solid schematics. They always have. Man, they got Simmons inside and up front. That's a big-time disruptor. This is a young guy, former first-rounder out of Mississippi State, man, that is really coming to his own and appears to be Pro Bowl caliber. He's had 7.5 sacks. I think he leads all interior rushers in the NFL in that regard. But aside from the sack total, he's just a big-time disruptor. He provides a wave that others ride. When you block him one-on-one in the run game, he sheds blocks and makes tackles. He bats passes. He batted a pass against us a year ago that was tipped up and intercepted and kind of changed the complexion of that game and got him back in it. He's a guy that has our attention up front. Byard is a guy at safety that really has our attention on the back end. Fifth-year guy, man, out of Middle Tennessee. Big time interceptor, has had a bunch, has got 5 this year. Has always been an interceptor. I remember when he came out of middle, he had 19. And anytime a college guy has double-digit interceptions, it should get your attention. He had 19. He's always been a ball guy. He's a ball hawk. He's very aware. He makes a lot of plays. They deploy him in a lot of ways. They play him in deep middle. They play him on half field. They insert him down into the box. He is big-time versatile and really is a guy that kind of singes it all together for him on the back end.
You have 4 games left. Every team in the NFL has 4 games left. What's your feeling going into these 4 games about where your team is right now and what you can do, to finish strong this season and get yourself in position?
We're in position to realize all our hopes and dreams. And so what requires our attention is the immediate challenge, getting ready for and playing and beating these guys. And so that's what we've been focused on all week. That's what has our attention. We paused and briefly looked at the big picture to acknowledge the opportunity there for us. But that opportunity is meaningless unless you take care of business in stadium. And that applies not only to us, but that applies to everybody that's in the mix. The entire AFC North better take care of in-stadium business. So I'd imagine that our perspective is not a unique one.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how this gone. The NFL and parity and the fact that 80% of the teams are still 1 game out of being in a playoff picture. And I guess that's the way they like it down the stretch in December football. When we come back, we'll hear Mike Tomlin's keys to the games. Right now, let's go back to Missy Matthews.
Thanks, Bob. It is really amazing how the playoff race is starting to shape up. It is only the 3rd time in the Super Bowl era that 0 teams have clinched a playoff spot heading into Week 15. Now, for the Steelers to earn a playoff berth of their own, it needs to start tomorrow at Heinz Field with a win. When we return, Merril Hoge returns to his Factor Back studio to break down a couple of key matchups the Steelers could look to exploit. That and much more as the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show continues right after the break.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
The Titans have been without the 2020 rushing leader for the last 6 weeks after placing Derrick Henry on IR prior to their Week 9 game. They have still, though, however, remained a top 5 rushing team. And one of the key matchups tomorrow will be, can the Steelers defense stop their rushing attack? For more on that, let's send it over to Merril Hoge for this week's Playbook.
Now listen, the NFL is about matchups, and all are important. However, every now and then there's one matchup in a game that's more critical than the other. And in this case, it is the Titans' running attack versus the Steelers' run defense. Here is the Tennessee Titans. Whether that's Derrick Henry back here or not, this is what they're going to do. A tight end here, a tight end here. And these guys are going to come off the football and try to maul you and run downhill. Now, at the snap of the ball, you're going to see what they do. And this is a great job of just running the football. What a beautiful job by the guard here. Boy, he gets this linebacker. Center is already one here. These 2 guys, a beautiful job here, and they have already created them what I call a canale because it is so big for their runner Foreman. Now, reason you probably didn't see this explosive run is because what happens right here. Bam, ball comes out and they recover it. Now, how can the Steelers handle that? Well, let's take a look. Look at how they did against the Ravens. And they've done this the last couple of weeks, is they'll play 5 linebackers to a lot of personnel that they will see. So, what does that personnel mean? First, you got a tight end here, and you got a tight end that's going to go in motion. Now, it's pretty much how the Titans had it. The formation is different, but here's all your big offensive linemen. You only have 1 wide receiver, and here's your runner. Well, here's how the Steelers really matched up to that. Is they take 5 linebackers. 1, 2, you got 3, you have 4, and you have 5. 5 guys to attack and handle and match up to the personnel that the Ravens had. And then what did they do? At the snap of the ball, I want you to watch TJ Watt, okay? He attacks here, and he has done one thing that's critical. He's occupied a guy here and here. He's taken two guys. That makes it much easier on this other linebacker and this linebacker to attack it downhill. They've controlled the line of scrimmage, most critical aspect of the running attack. They then make the runner lateral. They push him lateral. Once you do that, you are dead as a runner. Very few runners in football can make anything out of that, and they don't. The result is a negative play because of the way they matched up to it. Now we're going to take a look at the offense against the Titan defense, Steeler offense. And they do some actually interesting pressures that I've studied that are unique to a lot of others that are very successful. Now I wanted to show you the actual design of it. They're going to actually cross these two guys to occupy and pull these offensive linemen apart. And believe it or not, I mean, it almost looks like an offensive play, to be honest with you. They bring the defensive back and they run him right in the alley. It's incredible. Design, outstanding. Execution is perfection. Watch this. As you snap the ball, look at that. That could not be a better executed right there because you have now pulled these blockers over. You have created what we call a defensive canal right to your quarterback. Now, arguably, this should be taken care of. You have 1, 2, 3 over here. But because this defensive back came from so far, it's a lot to ask these guys to see that. They don't see it. They get right to the quarterback and down he goes quickly. Well, if you go to the Raven game, towards the end of the game, they did some good things as far as run action goes that neutralizes all of this pressure, gives your quarterback a little time, and you create one-on-one matchups. It's really called run action, a short yardage situation, but you got your tight end who stays in, your back will be a blocker, so you got 7 guys blocking with your offensive line. I want you to watch this little fake. Fake is very important because right there when you stop it, okay, you have now brought all of these guys up into this box and they're accounted for. Najee will help block too, but now you have one-on-one matchups here. Nobody in the center of the field. That's big time in the passing game. They take advantage of it. Ben hits Claypool, you got yourself a first down. Very next play, they do something that's actually very similar. And it handles what the Ravens like to do. Look at it. They got nobody in the middle of the field. The Steelers are going to do about what they did just a moment ago. They're going to do a little bit of run action. You're going to keep your tight end here. Your back's going to be a part of this. And all these guys are going to block. And you're going to pull all of these guys up in here. And you're going to challenge them to read this together, which they don't. They bust the coverage. They bust the coverage, but when you snap it, that run action right there, boy, that paralyzes the box. That keeps everybody in here, doesn't put anybody here. They're going to bust this on Johnson, and they're going to give yourself a touchdown. That's on a first down play. That neutralizes some of the pressures that a defense will do to you.
For more excellent insight from Merril Hoge, just head over to the Steelers YouTube page to check out all of his playbooks. Well, the Steelers and the Titans are renewing an old rivalry on Sunday at Heinz Field. Pittsburgh leads the all-time regular season series 44-31 and have won the last 3 times these two clubs have met. For more on this matchup, it's time to get our keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store. Let's send it over to Bob and Coach.
Now it's time for the key to offense. Mike, against this team is good about picking the ball off, doing some things to change the game. What is your key to the offensive success against the Tennessee Titans?
How we operate and deal with possession down pressure. We didn't do a good enough job a week ago in Minnesota against possession down pressure, and it affected our game. Got a quarterback hit and really we lost some possessions because of it. These guys are really adept at bringing possession down pressure. We did a really good job against it a year ago. Particularly Deontay Johnson was a big-time winner on some possession downs. And our ability to pick up and minimize their blitz game, but also win on the perimeter is going to be a significant component of offensive success for us in this football game.
Do you do anything differently schematically or from a personnel front when it comes to offensive line in this game? And Zach Banner, is he a player who can contribute from that point of view?
Joe Hague is a guy that's available to us significantly that wasn't available to us a week ago. I think that's probably the most significant difference from a personnel perspective.
All right, how about attacking this run game? Ryan Tannehill and company, what do you have to do defensively to be successful against this Titans team?
You know, the run game is a run game, man. Either we're going to stand up against that or it's going to be a difficult day. I'm anticipating us doing the job there. I think the thing that we need to prepare for from a strategic standpoint, and particularly in those weighty moments, is quarterback mobility. We can't allow them to win weighty moments with quarterback mobility. Quarterback mobility can't be a function of winning possession downs. Quarterback mobility can't be a function of red zone play. We got to do a good job of working to keep him in the pocket and minimizing what his legs provides them, particularly in situational football play.
And then there's the field position game, which of course brings in the special teams. Presley Harvin's been up and down. He's a rookie. Overall, how would you assess what he's done and what he needs to do moving forward in these last 4 games?
Just as you described, he's been up and down. But like we've told all rookies, you know, looking at it from a perspective that we played 13 regular season games already, none of them are rookies any longer. And so we expect him to continually be a guy in development and on the rise and gain consistency. Yes, there's been some bumps along the way. That's always the case when you're talking about young people, but they've been in enough situations and experienced enough now that we should see signs of that smoothing out, particularly over the course of the last month if they're trending in the right direction.
Coach, as always, appreciate the time. Good luck on Sunday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's going to do it for our show tonight. It's the Steelers and the Titans, a big game in the AFC on so many levels. Tiebreakers, division, all of that comes into play. You'll see it tomorrow on KDKA TV. We have our pregame beginning at 11:30 a.m. and then postgame following as well. And that'll do it for the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin program. For Missy Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow on Game Day.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.